All right, 99.9 Punk World Radio FM. You guys already know what time it is. Right here, we actually have a punk rock legend in the building. We got Brian Sheerin of the iconic band Mower, and of course, now Streacher. How are you doing tonight, Brian?
It's quite a build-up. I'm doing fine. Doing all right. I'm on the East
I,
Coast. I'm south of you, but I'm on the East Coast as well.
oh, nice. I automatically assumed you might have lived in San Diego because obviously I know that's where both bands are actually originally from. But what actually brings you out to the East Coast? Is it touring or is it just
No,
that's where you're living now?
holidays. I was vacationing in South America, and then I flew up to see the folks for our Thanksgiving down here.
I bet you are wishing you had that San Diego weather right now, man. The East Coast weather sucks.
It's cold. I've been walking every day despite that, but it's definitely been cold.
But I know you're a busy guy, Brian. I don't want to keep you away from your family too long, so I'm going to jump right into this. But years before Stretcher, as I mentioned during the intro, you were actually a member of an iconic California-based band by the name of Mower. I was wondering if you can actually just tell the listeners that might not be familiar with this band, just the origin story behind Mower, and of course, how did you guys actually come to meet and form this iconic band?
Well, there were a few of us jamming in the mid '90s in California, and then two of our members kind of immigrated from Colorado, and that's basically the genesis of it. There were three of us, four of us working. We lost a guy. We needed a bass player, and then our bass player Chris came with the singer attached. So that's kind of how the quick origin story right there. And then from there we started playing quite a bit in San Diego. We used to play with Stretcher, the original Stretcher lineup, and other bands like that. And then we put out some records, did some touring, and basically any of those bands in the early 2000s, we had a run with pretty much everybody. You could name a popular band, and we did a show or a festival or a tour with them. So we had a pretty good run. Not quite the super mega star success, but certainly in those same circles.
And also in the early days, Mower was actually signed to Suburban Noise Records, and if not mistaken, all your guys' records actually came out on Suburban. But I was wondering, how did you guys actually get discovered by that label? And of course, working with them all throughout the years, throughout all your guys' album releases.
Well, that was kind of engineered. We the label head, Kevin Singer, lived in San Diego and used to throw shows down there, put on shows with great bands. I mean, you name it, Sublime, the early Sugar Ray lineup, Snot, like Pennywise, basically the SRH and his production company threw a lot of cool shows. So they were on our radar, and then we needed to make sure that we were on his radar. So we basically flyered the whole perimeter of where he lived in Pacific Beach so that he couldn't drive to the 7-Eleven to grab a Pepsi without seeing 10 Mower flyers. So we got ourselves on his radar, and then got some music in his hands, and he liked what we were doing and what we were about. And we wound up, we recorded our first record on our own, but we wound up using that as our debut. And then we recorded a second record with Mikey Doling from Snot. And then we recorded a third record with Eddie Wall, who did a bunch of Anthrax. And he actually is the one who just recorded the 6 new Stretcher songs. So there's just a big circle.
And also, when you mentioned tours earlier about how you guys pretty much tour with almost any band, did any tour you possibly could think of, one of the most iconic tours to actually come around was actually in '99, where you guys actually had the opportunity to be a part of Van's Warped Tour. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us a bit more about your time on the Warped Tour, and of course, what was one of your most fondest memories you shared? Because I heard some crazy stories of Warped Tour.
Well, I'd be lying if I told you we did the full tour. We wound up doing the San Diego date in '99, and it was a lineup that featured Eminem when he was just starting to blow up. I think we were actually on stage at the same time as the Suicidal Tendencies were. We were on one of the Ernie Ball side stages, and it was a good set for us. We had a couple good reviews in the kind of local periodicals. I remember seeing Lejean from Seven Dust watching our set kind of out in the crowd, and it was a good showing for us. We had a lot of opportunities open up after that. So one of the things that helped put us on the map in San Diego. We had some really, we're really fortunate getting on radio shows and festival shows, and we partnered with the Jägermeister and got on some Jaeger music tour shows. So we were very fortunate, and we created a lot of opportunities too, just kind of working hard and finding yourselves on these events.
And I'm pretty sure you saw that the Vans Warped Tour is actually making a comeback. I mean, if you want to consider it a comeback, I think it's like 3 cities.
Yeah.
What's your take actually on Vans Warped Tour? Because I got to admit, I was super disappointed that they had no Montreal or Toronto dates. Man, I was actually devastated.
Well, I'm sure those are financial decisions. I'm sure that Kevin and that crew would like nothing more than to play every city all across the world. But especially now, post pandemic, and with the costs of touring going through the roof, they're probably financial decisions. I'm sure those guys would love to play everywhere.
And also as well, while we're still on the topic of Mower, you guys also had an alter ego as well, where you guys actually did like a slow, jazzy punk rock vibe called Slower. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us a bit more about Mower's alter ego and what actually made you guys actually kind of just drift actually into the jazzy punk rock.
Well, I think it gave us another way to go with things. I mean, that eventually wound up turning into a cover band of sorts after we had our initial run with it. But originally it started out with us performing our own music in kind of a laid back jazz or lounge style. And we expanded the band. I mean, we had got up to 12 people on stage with us with violins and cellos and keyboards and everything else. So it really fleshed out a completely different idea. I mean, we kind of went out there and suit and tie and really took a left turn from what we were doing with Mower. So it was fun. We actually did a Warped Tour date many years later as Slower. So we kind of came full circle, from Warped Tour to Warped Tour with a couple different bands. I think we put out one split record. The last record we did was half Mower and half Slower, but it was released as Mower. And I think that we probably should have done one or the other, whether we did a full Mower record or a full Slower record. But we also had some personnel changes at that point, and I guess it wasn't in the cards to do one or the other.
And one of the last Mower questions I actually have, in 2009, you guys actually released my personal favorite album titled Make It a Double. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us the story behind this album. And of course, what was it like just working alongside Daddy X of the Cottonmouth Kings for this particular project? Because if I'm not mistaken, he was one of the producers on this record.
No, unfortunately, that's not correct. We had Eddie Wall produce that disc. We did have quite a few guests and friends on that record. I mean, it's quite a list. We had Mikey from Snot. We had Roy Mayorga from Soulfly Ministry. He was out with Jerry Cantrell. We had quite a few people come in. Fernando Apodaca, Sylvia Apodaca. They came in and played strings on it. So we kind of threw the kitchen sink at that record. But like I said, I think we probably confused some people by having a split record like that without. I think it would have been better, probably one or the other, but hindsight's always 20/20, right?
I gotta say, the song that we don't speak of is actually one of my favorite tracks off that record. Personally, it's an unskippable album in my honest opinion, but the song we don't speak of is definitely one of my favorites and my go-to.
Yeah, there's some heavy stuff on it. I think that'd probably be one of my favorites on that record as well.
And also, moving on to the Streacher side of things, obviously I do know that Streacher actually was a huge band alongside Mower for so many years, but then drifted off and came back in 2023. I got to say, I really thank the pandemic for a lot of stuff like that, because it really gave a lot of individuals some creative just some creative ideas to bring back some old musical projects. But obviously you actually ventured off and actually joined Streacher. I was wondering, what is the story actually behind Streacher actually coming back together, and of course you actually becoming a part of that band?
The story, I think, did begin in the pandemic. Joe and Tom, a couple of founding members from Streacher, started a side project called Cedar Creek Outlaws, and they were recording with the guitar player, vocalist, and just kind of getting into writing music again. But I think their hearts both lie in metal and hard rock and in rock and roll, and I think they were doing more of it wasn't quite as heavy what they were doing in Cedar Creek Outlaws. So they kind of got the yearning to do hard rock again. They started working with Chris Hartgen and another fella, Jason, and they started writing what became some of these Stretcher songs. And my involvement is kind of funny. I literally had moved to the East Coast. I was down in South Carolinas for a couple of years, and I just went back for vacation to California to see my friends. But before I did, I kind of put feelers out to see if anyone wanted to go in and record a song, just one off, cover or whatever. And I wound up linking up with these guys, and they hit me back and said, look, we've got a whole bunch of music written and no vocals. Would you like to come check it out while you're here? So that's exactly how it went. I wound up renting a car and driving out from San Diego Beach area out to where those guys live, and we jammed for the one afternoon and jammed for the next afternoon, and then they had me come back out. That was July of last year, so 2023, and then they had me come out again in August, and then we all thought we were doing pretty cool stuff, so I wound up kind of moving there in say October or November, and then we were working on this music in their home studio, but it wasn't sounding sonically. It could have been better. So we kind of sat down and decided that we would put our efforts into doing some professional recordings. And we started calling around people. I called people that I knew. They called some people they knew. I was trying to see if, well, anyway, long story short, we got a hold of Eddie Wall, and Eddie has been doing a ton of TV work. He's winning Emmys and just crushing it. So I didn't think he'd really be interested in doing any music. But I did see that he put out some music with a band called Radio Bot. He's really good friends with Brett from Fuel. So I just kind of congratulated him online. Hey, man, that's awesome. Does that mean you're back into music? And he hit me back and said, well, why do you ask? And then, of course, I said, well, I've got a project that I'm working with these guys in Stretcher. And he said, send me some music. And if I dig it, maybe we can record some songs. So we sent him what we had. He liked it. We went up and did 3, and then we talked about doing a full record. We wound up doing 3 more, and for right now, we're going to release those 6 kind of sequentially as singles, and then we'll package it as an EP, or we may record some more and just kind of repackage it as an album. Nowadays there's a million ways to do it. So.
And also, I do know this album actually was released back when you were doing Mower and Stretcher was doing their thing. But this year actually next year I should say, 2025 actually marks 25 years since Anno Mundi actually dropped. I was wondering, is there any talks within the band of you guys actually going back and remastering this Stretcher classic into a 25th anniversary edition? Because I would love to get myself a copy of that on wax.
Yeah, I don't know if there's plans for that right now. I think that you'd have to ask Tom and Joe, because that's really that's their baby with the former singer and my friend Mario Israel. So I think those guys would have to make that decision. Right now, obviously, we're trying to get this music out and promote it. So I don't know if they're going to try and do those two things concurrently. It's not a decision I'm going to have much say in. I'm kind of into the new stuff and trying to get that out there. We have a video shot. We've got 6 songs ready to go, and now we're just going to get them out to Bandcamp and let them live there for a little bit, and then release them kind of more widespread through the Spotify's and Pandora's and et cetera, et cetera.
And that was actually one of my next questions out of my list pertaining to new music. I know you just mentioned there's 6 songs. I was wondering, can you tell us a little bit more about these songs in particular, and what can the Stretcher fans actually expect from the new music? Is Stretcher a whole new different sound, or do you guys still emulate the same sound of the original lineup?
I think that I think it's a new sound, but I do think that you've got 2 core members from the original lineup. So Tom and Joe are the rhythm section. It's going to sound like Stretcher in that they still write in similar fashion. But we do have Chris Hartgen, who I feel really comes from more of a punk feel style. He's got a really cool kind of loose style of playing guitar. He comes up with some really creative riffs. So that's going to be different. And then my vocal approach is completely different than Mario's. And I tell these guys all the time, I still have Stretcher kind of in my personal phone collection. I've been listening to Stretcher for years, and I don't listen to all that many bands from San Diego. There's a few, but Stretcher would be one of them. So I'm a fan as well as a friend, and now as as much as a band member. But I just derailed myself there. The initial question was, this song. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be as heavy, and I don't think fans of like the kind of the more extreme vocals are going to flock to it. But it's still rock and roll. It's still hard rock. There's still heavy stuff. I mean, we kind of are taking a ride through different styles. I mean, the first single is the lightest thing we've got, and it's kind of our take on a weekend track. It's the song "Blinding Lights." So it's definitely a departure from anything that Stretcher did in the past, but I think it'll hopefully invite some people from just outside that realm and get some more people kind of hooked in, and then we can kind of beat them up with some of the original stuff after we've opened the door to it.
Hey, you got to spoon feed them there, Brian. You have to. You can't just give them the hard shit right off the hop. You got to spoon feed it a little bit.
You can do whatever you want, but we think this might be a smart play. So time will tell.
And also, what is the actual estimated release date of these singles, or even at least one single? I will admit, I'm itching to hear the brand new Stretcher.
It was last June. It was this summer. We are shooting for the beginning of the year. So I'd love to say January. It'd probably be closer to February, but somewhere in that first month or two, we're going to start releasing the single. Like I said, we've got the video shot. We shot a location video with a friend of ours, Tyler Jordan, who's a really talented director. He's been doing video and photography for years and years and years, and we had some really good fortune with how the video came out. It's just a performance piece, but we were really fortunate. Tom's family had some land in the area we live in, and we were able to kind of access that and shoot on like a pasture, and at night it looks like the moon. It came out really good, so we're excited about that. And then that'll kind of be the lead off, and then pretty much every month after that we'll be dropping something else. The merch site is hopefully going to be up here in a couple days, so we can kind of direct people to, before I forget, our Instagram's at Stretcher Music, our website is stretchermusic.com. The merch site will be up in a few days at stretchermerch.com. So a couple things that people can check out, and then by the end of it all, we'll have our TikToks and YouTubes and all that type of stuff as well. I think we've got a Stretcher band page is the Facebook, so there's a few ways to get a hold of us, and we're growing all that stuff. I mean, we're at a few thousand fans right now, just getting the word out and kind of shaking the trees from the old bands and trying to migrate some people over. That'll take some time, but I think once there's music out for people to gravitate towards, it'll help us quite a bit. We played our first show in San Diego, and it was a full house at a club that holds probably about 400 people in Ocean Beach. So we still have some buddies and some friends and fans that are kind of keeping the torch lit for us. So now we need to get them some new music and give them something to enjoy. And I think that's all coming up quick here. So we're excited about that.
And obviously, aside from all that, because I know you said you got the music videos, the TikToks, and everything coming, and the music is coming in the new year. But I have to ask, is there anything we happen to miss during this evening's broadcast, Brian? Anything else you do still want to touch on, talk about, or promote? Well, we still got you here live on 99.9 FM tonight.
I mean, just kind of some shout outs to people that have been supportive. The Piston Razors guys out of El Paso, they're celebrating, I think it's 30 years. Eddie and their crew, Gio, and even some of their extended crew, Cheese, and those guys have been really good to us. Annette, they could go on and on, but they got a real lot of love for us in El Paso, Texas. So thank you to those guys. The Skin Lab guys, we did a show with them in Mexico. They just released a song that's doing really well on satellite radio called Flesh Wounds, and they're playing as heavy as ever. And just kind of the people that we're running into again with Norm Leggio from Nukem we saw recently. They're getting ready to release a new record. Sprung Monkey guys, the Summers Brothers, and then Ernie's got a new project called Occupier, and Will's in a band called War Fever with PK from Unwritten Law. And then Unwritten Law is about to play some shows again in San Diego. So we're running into some old friends. We made some new friends in the Sleeping Faceless guys, and some more old friends and Fractures, Travis Neal from Define Heresy fame, and Cascade Effect guys from some bands that we used to play with in San Diego. So we're having a good time with it. You know, everyone's pretty good. You know, so the Mower guys are good. Dominic is just about the other singer. Mower is just about to get about to take his bar exam for California next spring, so he's doing very well. Our old bass player is DJing. He's DJ the Schneeks, and he's got a following brewing in San Diego. He's kind of doing the clubs and that type of vibe. And then an old guitar player is doing a Linkin Park tribute, Linkin Park experience. So everybody's staying busy. I know Snot is about to tour again. I was talking with Mikey recently, so they've got some Southern California dates. They've got some big festival shows, and they're going to be playing the original album, Get Some, which will be cool for people who didn't get a chance to see it before Lynn passed away, and then for people who did see it and want to hear the songs again. So some cool things going on there. And then you know, just our friends and family. We've got the wives that are keeping us alive, Jen, Vicky, and Candace, and then the kids, JoJo, Connor. I sound like I'm doing a roll call with JoJo, Connor, Allie, Willow, and Maddie. So you know, it's good to kind of have a family vibe, and so that's pretty much it. You know, we're excited about doing things. You know, before I forget, Timmy Smalls is part of our crew. Jimmy Changa, San Diego Flores is part of our crew. He's got a band called Sicarios de Musica, and that's it. Before I just rattle on and on, things are good. We're excited. We got new music dropping, a new video dropping, new merch dropping. 2025 is going to be a busy year out of the gate. So.
And before we actually part ways here tonight, Brian, I do know you dropped the social media handles earlier on, but in case people are just sliding into the radio station airways now and might happen to miss it, how can we actually follow Streacher all across the board before we part ways here tonight?
Well, we'd love to get you on Instagram at Streacher Music, Like I say, our website is stretchermusic.com, and then our merch site will be up in a couple of days at stretchermerch.com. So those three would be a good place to start. There's also a Streacher band page on Facebook, and you type in Streacher San Diego and it will pop up somewhere. So please say hello, please like and subscribe and smash that button and all that jive.
I got to say, first and foremost, Brian, thank you so much for giving not only myself, but the radio station airwaves a bit of your time here tonight. It was such an honor speaking with California's finest here tonight. Hopefully we can make this happen again sometime soon. But for now, have yourself a phenomenal night, man. And of course, happy holidays to you and your family as well out there.
You too, man. Thank you for your time.
You're most certainly welcome, Brian. Have yourself a wonderful night.
All right, brother. Bye.